We're off to San Francisco.
That's right.
To play with cable cars and trolley cars.
And encounter the hills.
Just whatever else pops up in San Francisco. Because it's San
Have
Francisco.
lunch with the daughter.
That's right. Have lunch with your daughter. That's wonderful. So check it out. Trolley cars, cable cars, and all things San Francisco. The best way to get around San Francisco has always been mass transit. These days, that means riding the BART. So we abandoned our vehicle in the East Bay and rode the BART into San Francisco under the bay. It is the fastest and most reliable way to get into the city. The terminals in San Francisco are all subterranean. Now down here it connects with some of the underground routes of the Muni, the San Francisco municipal system. But up at street level you'll find many other Muni lines. This is the F line. Now the cool thing about the F line is they run old restored trolley cars. It connects the financial district to Fisherman's Wharf. They maintain a fleet of 17 restored trolley cars, and on occasion they've been known to borrow cars from the Rio Vista Museum. That was the museum we covered in last week's show. All of these cars are what are called PCC cars. It's worth noting that they're painted in a lot of different paint jobs. This is because they came from a lot of different cities and they've been kept in their original colors. It was assumed that they'd be a big hit with tourists, but what was unexpected is that they're a big hit with commuters. People would rather ride these than the modern trains. They're so successful, in fact, that the city is now adding a second line, the E line, with more restored trolleys. Well, San Francisco is certainly one of America's great cities. And how cool is it now that these trolley cars are joining the cable cars as this really fun way to get around one of America's most beautiful cities. Well, the most iconic structure in San Francisco would have to be the Golden Gate Bridge. It was built in 1937, and for almost 30 years, it was the longest suspension bridge in the world. It was conceived of in 1916, but it wasn't until the Great Depression that it was actually built. Now, directly underneath the Golden Gate Bridge is what could arguably be called the oldest structure in San Francisco. When Spanish explorers first found the San Francisco Bay, they fortified the Golden Gate area in an attempt to keep other nations from seizing control of it. In the 1850s, with the potential of civil war looming, the government decided to build an actual fort here, Fort Point. And in the 1930s, it was used as the construction offices for building the Golden Gate. Now, just a short distance from there, you find the Palace of Fine Arts. This is a leftover. It was part of the 1915 Panama Pacific International Exposition, celebrating the opening of the Panama Canal and the very first World's Fair. The fair was built on 635 acres of reclaimed land built in the bay. And as you can see, the Palace of Fine Arts was just a very, very small part of it. Now, none of this was intended to be permanent. It was all built out of plaster and rather flimsy building materials. But the Palace of Fine Arts was left standing because, well, frankly, it was really cool. But in the 1960s, the whole thing just fell down. So they rebuilt it exactly as it was, only this time out of permanent materials. It is massive and positively beautiful, and it has become one of the major landmarks here in San Francisco. And you can't even say the name San Francisco without conjuring up images of cable cars. Cable cars have always been the way to get around in San Francisco. Back in the day, they were the only kind of streetcar that could get up and down these impossibly steep hills. That's because they're not driven by their wheels or pulled by a horse. There are 4 of the original lines still in operation, and boy, are they a huge hit with tourists. You may wait in line for an hour just to get on one. And here's what makes the whole system work. The cars are pulled along by cables which originate here at the car barns and are driven by these giant electric motors. Yes, they were once steam engines. From this location, 4 giant loops of cables feed out into the city, first feeding out through a system of tunnels, and then later on a network of small channels running down the middle of the tracks, around pulleys, and, well, requiring all kinds of really exotic track work. When the motorman, in this case called a gripman, wants to go forward, they engage a grip which simply seizes the cable, and away you go. The giant cable car network was destroyed in the 1906 earthquake, as was much of San Francisco. Fortunately, much of the cable car network was rebuilt. A great place to check out the history of the cable car is here at the Cable Car Museum. They even have several pre-earthquake cars on display for your inspection and gratification. But the best way to enjoy the cable cars is simply ride them. There are 2 types of cars being used on the system today. One of them is called the California Street car. It's a double-ended car. It runs on California Street, hence the name. And because it's double-ended, it doesn't require turning. The other cars, which run on the Powell, Hyde, and Mason Street lines, are single-ended, and this means that they have to be turned around at the ends of the line. There are 28 of the single-ended cars and 12 of the double-ended California Street cars operating on the system. The single-ended cars are turned on 3 different turntables at the terminus of the lines. Turning these cars is not exactly easy. There is no power anything on this system, and so everything is done by the Armstrong give it a mighty shove technique. On a typical day, somewhere around 6,500 people, or, more, will ride the cable car system. Well, that's San Francisco for you.
Oh my goodness.
God, I'll tell you what.
I have dreams about San Francisco. I don't. Steve.
Well, you and me both. I don't know, there's something about San Francisco that causes you to conjure it up in dreams.
Right.
It's a dream city.
And a lot of movies filmed there, including Bullet.
Yeah, Bullet, the chase scene in Bullet is just fabulous.
Right. Oh.
And it's just, generally speaking, just an amazing city.
It is, just
an amazing American city. And cable cars, hello, are really
and the
cool.
chocolate Ghirardelli.
Oh, the Ghirardelli chocolate.
No
Totally wonderful.
Chocolate
Totally wonderful.
connoisseur. I could have stayed there.
Anyway, real life takes us back away from our screwing around.
Yeah.
Although in our case, real life is sort of screwing around. But we've got to get back to Salt Lake.
That's right.
Because we got people there who say, you really need to come back and screw around here.
That's
because
right.
we have some business screwing around that needs to take place. Now, what in the heck do you people think you're doing?
Right.
Just driving all over California like you own the darn place.
We still have Nevada to cross.
We got Nevada
We
to
can
cross,
find some things
which
in
is,
Nevada, I'm sure.
yeah, we might find something fun to cover in Nevada too.
Right.
There's fun things to look at everywhere you go.
That's right.
We will find them and seek them out
Right.
and report back to you on them. Well, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, that's because you haven't gotten around to it, or
Right.
I don't know, the moon was in the wrong phase, Sagittarius was in Leo, I don't know why.
Yeah.
But if you click on that blue button, all will be resolved. The stars will come into alignment. The moon will realign with the planetary alignment of the zodiac and whatever else needs to happen. Blue button, you're subscribed, and then you'll be notified every time we upload a movie,
Right.
which is every Sunday. So every Sunday morning, you know,
there you are.
generally speaking, morning. Sometimes we sleep in. But Sunday morning, the new show goes up, and it's always a good deal of fun. So check that out and do subscribe.
Right.
Well, we're not sure how you found this movie on the internet. We hope you didn't find it boring.
No.
And we will see you here again in 1 week with some more massive screwing around. We'll see you then. Bye.